can let. Great. All right.
Alrighty, well, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our UNA Los Angeles chapter's 4th annual UN Day event, celebrating both the United Nations 77th anniversary as well as Diwali. My name is Liang, and it is my honor today to be your MC, but I also have a special side role of being Miss California 2022. So this is an incredible honor for me to be here on an amazing panel. And today we have an incredible program in line for you that centers around the topic of nourishing peace. So before we begin today, I'm very excited about our program. I'd like to kindly ask that everyone remain muted on our Zoom call, just out of respect and appreciation of all of our speakers here. We'll begin with a kind of outline of our program. We'll start with a performance and meditation in honor of Diwali, and then I'll talk about personally what nourishing peace means to me on an individual level, and how it's a huge concept to have, but it really just starts with our grassroots effort, starting with one person at a time. And then we'll hear a message from our UN Day honoree and SDG Sustainable Development Goals Impact Award recipient, Mayor Eric Garcetti. Afterwards, we'll have a follow-up with some Q&A with Angela Kim from the mayor's office, and we'll explore the SDGs and nourishing peace at a citywide level. Following that, we'll be joined by our keynote speaker, Peter Yo, who will give us insight into nourishing peace on a global scale and in a literal way, pulling away from his recent experiences abroad on the issue of food security. We'll also be having a Q&A with him as well. And to round out our program, we will hear from our local heroes on how they are nourishing peace and advancing SDG right here in Los Angeles and Southern California. So let's get into it. It is my tremendous pleasure to welcome and introduce Jillian Boardman, President of the United Nations Association Los Angeles chapter. Jillian, take it away.
Thanks, Catherine. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the UNALA chapter's 4th annual UN Day. For those who are joining us for the first time, UNA USA is an organization that is almost as old as the United Nations itself. One of its founding members, Eleanor Roosevelt, led with the concept, think globally, act locally. And with a deeply held belief in the importance of the creation of the UN to usher in a new era of global cooperation and peace, UNA USA was born. Its mission is pretty simple, to instill the values and goals of the UN in every community in the US. Today, UNA USA has over 200 chapters across the nation. The LA chapter is among one of the most recent. We formed in 2019, and through UNA USA, we've had the opportunity to meet with Ted Lieu's office and met with state representatives Dianne Feinstein's office and Kamala Harris's office to advocate on issues important to us like climate change, gender equity, and racial justice, among many other topics. Together, we have fundraised thousands of dollars for the World Health Organization to fight the COVID-19 pandemic, to end homelessness with a sense of home, invest in environmental sustainability with Homeboy Electronics Recycling, and provide life-saving services to immigrants and refugees with IRIS, Interfaith Refugee and Immigration Services, all local LA-based nonprofits. And we formed partnerships with over 30 different local organizations, businesses, and individuals who are all working to advance the SDGs right here in LA. On behalf of the LA chapter board, it's been an honor to create meaningful events and advocacy experiences for our members and the LA community over the last 3.5 years. And now our time is coming to a close. We're excited to be holding our first elections this year. If you're interested in learning more about joining the LA chapter board, please send an email to info@unalosangeles.org. We hope you enjoy this year's UN Day.
Wonderful, Jillian. That was so much incredible information, and I'm very excited for people to learn more about all the incredible initiatives that the LA chapter is conducting. But for a little bit of mindfulness on a Sunday and to kind of really put us in the right headspace, I thought we would start off with an incredible performance and guided workshop by Radhika Vekaria. So to set the tone, feel free to dim your spaces as much as possible. I know it's a little hard with the sun fully out, but turn on an electric candle or a real one, turn on your cell phone light, and we'll try to bring together the light as we are also celebrating Diwali. So it's both a literal and metaphorical celebration. So I'm very excited to introduce the magical and incomparable singer and songwriter, Radhika Vekaria.
Thank you so much, Catherine. What a wonderful introduction. Hi, everybody. Such a pleasure to be here. And as Catherine said, it is Diwali. So we're going to start this little segment with just a little bit of going internally. So if you can close your eyes, just wherever you are. And take a few deep breaths in and out through the nose. To nourish peace. What does that mean to you? Why do we seek peace in life? We seek peace because it is our nature. We seek peace because that is where we truly come from. The challenge in life arises when there is a separateness between the peace inside and the world that we see. So ask yourself on this auspicious time of Diwali, how can you cultivate more peace in your life? Through every thought, through every action, it begins with a breath. Let the beginning of that peaceful action, that peaceful thought start with this awareness of breath. Diwali is a celebration of returning to the light, returning from exile to one's own internal kingdom, to that truth that resides within. As a human being, it will happen that we are exiled from our own truth sometimes. The lesson is to always know how to return fuller and brighter than ever to that light within. This piece that I'll play for you is a beloved song by Mahatma Gandhi that the world recognizes as an incredible figure who walked in the name of peace. It is a blessing to all of you and everyone and all the lives that you touch from today on.
Raghupati Raghav Raja Ram Patita Pavan Sitaram Raghupati Raghav Raja Ram Patita Pavan Sitaram 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 Baj pyari tu Sitaram 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 Baj pyari tu Sitaram
Let that light be felt within.
ईश्वर आलाय तेरे नाम सबको सामति दे भगवान ईश्वर आलाय तेरे नाम सबको सामति दे भगवान राम राम Raghupati Raghav Raja Ram Patita Pavan Sitaram Raghupati Raghav Raja Ram Patita Pavan Sitaram Patita Pavan Sitaram Patita Pavan Sitaram
Ram is the light within that shines in every single one of you. And I wish you many blessings on this day. Beautiful day to celebrate nourishing peace. And we can all do that with every action, every thought, every deed, operating from the truth. Always from here, always from our soul. Thank you so much for having me, allowing me to share. And now we take it back to Catherine, Liang, to talk on issues close to her heart, mental health, well-being, and what it means to be courageous for yourself and others.
Wow, thank you so much, Radhika. That was, if I could describe it in one word, so incredibly enlightening. I think sometimes, yeah, it's very true in a world where, we're so driven by this hustle and bustle culture. It's very hard to be in tune with ourselves. So thank you for reminding us of that. So as Radhika so kindly introduced, I am Catherine, and I have the honor of serving as your Miss California for 2022. And I really love this theme that the UN is celebrating is building up peace. And for me, peace personally means having courage. And why I say this is it actually stems from my personal journey. Like so many in this room, and perhaps your sons and daughters or grandchildren, I bet at one point in our life, we all wanted to be a hero or an avenger and fly around the world and potentially save someone else's life. And for me, peace at that time when I was younger was defined as having the world experience utter harmony, and being that superhero for other people. So as a kid, I dedicated myself to being that superwoman on the playground, eventually transitioning those ambitious goals into community service projects like distributing meals at a Thanksgiving banquet or passing out backpacks around when school would start. In high school, I even had the opportunity to serve as a junior commissioner on human rights, advocating for awareness in issues like poverty and food insecurity, sustainable housing, and diversity and inclusion initiatives. And while all of these initiatives really taught me the value of, humility and putting others before yourself, I confess now looking back, there was a bit of a disconnect between, directing my impact outwards and hoping that it would, create a positive change in someone else's life versus truly empathizing and connecting with the people that I had worked with. So Radhika, I loved what you had mentioned before about returning to an internal kingdom and that inner truth that resides within every single one of us. So in 2017, I had my own test of that, of seeking out what internal light meant and what a test of courage would mean. So for a little bit of context, I had just entered my freshman year at the University of Southern California, full of hope, without a care in the world. But it was actually around this month, October 8th in 2017, when I watched a fire map reloading and reloading and reloading. I watched it as it consumed my home and hometown in the tragic Northern California Tubbs fire. And following that, 1 month later, I was finally diagnosed with something called Hashimoto's disease, essentially a debilitating autoimmune disorder that left me pretty much barely able to walk a block or two without having to sit down, because I felt like I would black out. So to describe 2017, it was a sense of disconnect and turmoil and a complete loss of courage. And I share this with you not so much as a sob story, but more so to share this idea of how I kind of rediscovered my courage. In that year, I completely lost a sense of who I was, but it also gave me a chance to really reevaluate what was important to me. It wasn't, pursuing accolades or being top of my class, but it was simply this idea of being able to connect, and really appreciate family and friends and the people around you, the community around you. So now as Miss California, that is actually my social impact initiative, is to inspire other people and to remind them that, they too can be a champion of courage. I'm very proud to say that, my entire personal brand and really my life's mission now is to demonstrate 3 things to people. To be a champion of courage, you first and foremost need authenticity. Sometimes a lot of us spearhead really impactful initiatives that extend well beyond our personal lives. But unless we're able to authentically share our personal story as to, why this is genuinely important to us and not just a tagline that we kind of stand behind, I think that's what really garners a lot of trust in other people. And to have authenticity, you need to be audacious, or a synonym to that is courage. It takes a lot to put yourself out there and, to spearhead an initiative that, has so much impact on other people's life. But I truly believe that authenticity combined with audaciousness transforms your personal story into something to advocate for. So for me, going through being a fire survivor, as well as someone who's frankly just living day to day with an autoimmune disorder, I've become an advocate of what it means to live courageously, to get out of bed every single day and to find a little slice of heaven for ourselves. So I implore all of you to remember that you too are a champion of courage, and that before we look to other people to be our avenger or our favorite superhero, that every single one of us possesses that courage, and that courage to be able to nourish peace in others. So that's the message that I hope to impart on you. And I'm very grateful for this platform to kind of just again, very authentically share my personal story. I'm definitely inspired by many people in this room, and I hope that my life's work will one day at least come to 1% of what all of you are doing. But my goal for now, being Miss California, is really just to implore that everyone is indeed a champion of courage. So I'm very excited to introduce our next speaker. Many of us have the opportunity to nourish peace in so many different ways. And our UN Day honoree and SDG Impact Award recipient, Mayor Garcetti, is no stranger to advancing the SDGs and has been one of the United Nations' strongest advocates at the city level for us all. So I am very excited that he has a message to share with us all.
Hello, I'm Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti. Happy 77th anniversary of the United Nations, and happy Diwali to everyone. And I want to thank the LA chapter of the UN Association, which I've been affiliated with for a long time, for hosting this event of celebration and bringing us together around this year's theme of nourishing peace. I've always said that the Sustainable Development Goals are not about faraway places. They're about small places. The work that we do every day in cities where we live, where we play, where we work, where we worship. And we will only achieve them globally and here in LA if we work together. For us, this work started in 2017 as one of the first cities in the world to demonstrate its commitment to these goals through active stakeholder engagement, localized reporting, and the development of new open source tools to support others in our city on that journey and around the world. At that time, there were only a handful of cities working on the SDGs. And now I'm pleased that hundreds of cities have now committed themselves to making progress on global goals locally. You see, together we are a community of practice where we can learn from each other, challenge each other, increase our ambition and our collective impact. And here in LA, I want to say thank you to our incredible SDG partners at Occidental College, Arizona State University, and USC, as well as you, the UN Association in LA, working to create the world and the future we want. It is an honor to accept this SDG Impact Award, but we know this work continues. This award belongs to each of us who are committed to leaving no one behind as we work together to center people, our planet, peace, and shared prosperity in all that we do. As I close, may I recount what Diwali reminds us. Love and light will always guide us towards a brighter tomorrow. It's my honor to work alongside you in the past, in the present, and I look forward to doing so in the future. Thank you so much.
From the UNA and the LA chapter, thank you so much, Mayor Garcetti and the Mayor's Office of International Affairs for spearheading this incredible global development agenda. Again, keyword is being global, and that's not an easy feat to take on. But by creating the SDGs in LA program, you have paved the way for other cities around the nation and the world to adopt the necessary task of achieving the 2030 goals. And here to talk more about SDGs in LA, we are joined by the UNA LA board member, Janine Dean and Angela Kim, project manager in the Los Angeles Mayor's Office of International Affairs, and previously as the SDG program for the Mayor's Office, where she worked on localizing the SDGs in the city of Los Angeles.
Thank you, Catherine. Angela, I'm so glad that you're able to join us today and share a little bit more detail to some of the context that the mayor introduced in his acceptance speech. I was hoping you could start with how the city is involved in the Sustainable Development Goals. Give us a little bit of an overview, because many feel that they are an initiative really at the national government level. And so we would love to hear how cities such as Los Angeles have been working to achieve those goals by 2030.
Sure. Hi, Jenny, and thank you, and thanks, Catherine, and thanks UNALA for hosting this event. Thanks everyone for joining and committing ourselves again to the SDGs and the importance of continued engagement to nourishing peace, and happy Diwali. So as Mayor Garcetti said, in 2017, Mayor Garcetti committed the city of LA to making progress on the SDGs. And back then, 5 years ago, we were one of the first cities in the world to engage in this international global agenda, along with a few other vanguard cities. In 2019, the city of LA became the 6th city in the world to publish what's called the Voluntary Local Review of Progress on the SDGs. National governments already did that. It's called the Voluntary National Review. But in 2019, cities like New York, Buenos Aires, a few cities in Japan started to innovate and create this new type of reporting for cities to also engage in this agenda. And LA published its first report in 2019. As Mayor Garcetti said in his speech, the goals for us, the global goals in LA are not about faraway places, but it's about the work that we're doing every day in the city for our residents, for our communities. And even at the global scale, at the UN level, the SDGs will not be achieved without the engagement of cities and local governments. By 2030, about 60% of the world's population are going to be living in cities and urban areas. 75% of energy consumption will be taken by cities, and about 80% of greenhouse gas emissions. So our collective goals around poverty, sustainability, peace, prosperity, inclusivity are not going to be achieved without cities taking this agenda and making it our own. So it's very clear that the UN system and the multilateral system and global agendas need the engagement of cities and mayors and residents and communities like the UN association here in LA. But on the other hand, the reason why it's important for a city like LA to engage in these goals is that LA is the 2nd largest city in the US, has the 3rd largest metropolitan economy in the world. So we already are a global city, and engaging in the goals like this helps us to have shared language, to speak about shared priorities and best practices with other cities around the world. It gives us a collective ambition to build vision towards the future we want, as well as giving us really specific ways in which to measure progress around quantitative metrics that the UN SDG framework provides.
Wow, it seems like we are really a leader in this space, and it's exciting to see that. I'm glad you were able to sort of share the highlights of that. Today, we're here convening around the theme of nourishing peace. And so I'm wondering if you could tell some stories or examples of how this body of work intersects with that topic.
Sure, nourishing peace is such an interesting theme, especially right now. It's about what's going on globally, nationally, and locally. And there's something else that Mayor Garcetti always says is that beyond building a city of inclusion, equity, and justice and prosperity here in LA, what we really are trying to do is nurture a city of belonging. So one specific example and program that we have here in Los Angeles through the Civil, Human Rights, and Equity Department, and I welcome everyone to look at their website, and I'm going to share links in chat later so you can have all of the links and resources that I talk about. But they have this campaign that just celebrated its 1-year anniversary called LA for All. So it's all about building a city of belonging and having language everywhere and resources for people on how to deal with discrimination, how to report discrimination, and really making it visible that LA is a city for all, that LA is a city of belonging. And as part of that campaign, there was also a program called the Art of Belonging, where the Civil, Human Rights, and Equity Department did an art program to really sketch what LA looks like and create art out of it on the diversity of our city. LA is one of the most diverse cities in the world, so Nourishing Peace is also about building those bridges for action, about building communities and nurturing our communities. If you want me to talk about more specific programs, in 2021, we launched the city's 2nd voluntary local review of progress, which was a follow-up on our 2019 work. And a big focus of that report was on the lived experience of Angelenos, and the principle of leaving no one behind. Because Nourishing Peace should really be about caring for our most vulnerable and underserved residents. So I'll share a link to that report, but in there you'll find a lot of examples of city programs and policies and services that are centered around leaving no one behind and serving our most vulnerable residents, including the country's biggest guaranteed income pilot program, programs around alternatives to armed response to emergency calls, the largest participatory budgeting pilot in the US, and the new peace and healing centers that the Civil, Human Rights, and Equity Department are going to be launching soon. So I'll share all of that. And then, as I mentioned, personally speaking, there's a activist author that I absolutely adore. Her name is Grace Lee Bogg. She passed a few years ago, but she always used to say that what we may need in cities is not revitalization of cities, but it's the re-civilization of cities. So how do we engage our residents in our community, especially young people, in the civic processes to engage them in community building and being part of the government and multi-sector approaches to solving our problems.
Wow, wonderful details there. And we're looking forward to the links in the chat so we can read more. And you actually set us up really well for my final question, which is around that involvement. So you mentioned how it's really important to have the next generation sort of see themselves as being invested in the government or local activities. And your whole answer to the last response was really around inclusion and belonging. And so I'd love for you to share with the participants on this event today how, because most of us are Angelenos, how we can get involved in forwarding the city's work with the SDGs and the global nature of it, right? Everybody can make a contribution. So show us some examples of how we could do that, or where on the city's resources we would look for opportunities.
One thing I love about, I'm also an Angeleno, have lived here for a majority of my life. And one thing I love about working in city government is that LA is one of those places where you can find any problem in the world. You can find it in the streets of LA, and we're trying to solve all of them. LA is innovating in solutions for problems across housing, climate change, transportation, mobility, all sectors. So whatever issue area you're passionate about, there is a group in Los Angeles doing great work to make it better, including through city government, including through city departments, but also civil society, community organizations, philanthropy, private sector. So I would welcome everyone to learn more about our work at sdg.lamayor.org. If you have any questions, you can contact us at sdg@lamayor.org is the email address, and I'm the one behind it, so I'll answer any follow-up questions that people have. And then I also welcome people to volunteer with their local community organizations and really learn about what's going on in my neighborhood. Are there, if I care about food security, are there community gardens in my neighborhood that I can volunteer with? Are there community fridges I can contribute to? And there's a few databases out there, but I welcome everyone to look at letsvolunteerla.org, which is the one that was sponsored by the mayor's office. And if you are an organization or an individual doing great work in Los Angeles, I welcome you to enter your work into our crowdsourced database. And I can put a link to it down there, so you can really start to see the network and the ecosystem of action that Los Angeles has built over the years, not only just through city government, but really long before that through community work and volunteers and community action that's been going on. And then in our website, there's also resources on specific everyday actions that residents can take to advance each of the 17 goals. When you talk about no poverty, SDG 1, or gender equity, SDG 5, reduce inequalities, SDG 10, it can seem very 10,000-foot level, but there's some resources on what are everyday actions that I can take to advance the goals. But with that, thank you so much, Jenny, for the questions, and thank you for UNALA for hosting this event.
Thanks God to you, Angela. We really appreciate you being with us this morning, and all the great work that you're doing in the mayor's office. And please convey our thanks to the rest of your team and the mayor when you see him again. I'll turn it back over to Catherine to continue the program.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenny and Angela. And I think it's really inspiring. It kind of reminds us all that every single person does indeed have the power to make a positive influence in other people's life. And I love that the website shows kind of actionable steps that you can take, because these goals do sometimes, they might seem a little big and intimidating, but at the end of the day, as long as we can make someone else smile, that's our biggest impact that we can have. So it is very inspiring to see the work that is happening to achieve SDGs in Los Angeles, and all the ways that we might not even realize how the work is impacting our everyday lives as well as that of our community members. And speaking of making an impact, there is no better person to speak about this than our keynote speaker. He is a leader on doing this at a global level, Peter Yo, as president of the Better World Campaign and the SVP of the UN Foundation, Peter Yo has championed several of the SDGs. From his time on Capitol Hill working on foreign policy issues like leading a successful negotiation for the landmark HIV and AIDS, Tuberculosis and Malaria Act of 2003, to being a part of the US delegation to the climate negotiations in Kyoto, Peter Yo's experience of nourishing peace globally is only surpassed by his passion for it. Just hearing about his accomplishments, I already want to give him a round of applause. So I am so honored to introduce our UN Day keynote speaker, Peter Yo.
Well, good morning, Los Angeles, and thank you, Catherine, for your introduction. I am incredibly inspired by your story and your leadership. And so thank you for sharing it today, and also very inspired by Mayor Garcetti and Angela Kim for excellent work at the city level on the SDG implementation. So thank you, and happy Diwali, everybody. I really appreciate being invited to be with you today. Honestly, it's hard to believe that it's been 77 years since the United Nations was founded, after months of long and difficult negotiations in your home state of California. Among the 51 nations that made up the founding states of the United Nations. I mean, can you imagine getting, these days, 51 countries to agree on anything? But they agreed to the United Nations Charter, and the UN was formed. And today, with 193 countries who are members of the UN is still able to gain consensus among nations and get stuff done. So we should be happy for that. We have seen great successes from the UN. Together, working through the UN, we have eradicated diseases like smallpox, lifted over 1 billion people out of poverty, and provided humanitarian aid to those in need, really at a scale that not one nation can do alone. You need the UN at times to bring the world together to provide this type of humanitarian assistance. And while the UN has certainly failed to stop all wars, the UN has succeeded in preventing a world war. Our challenges today have increased in scope and complexity for sure. Russia's unprovoked invasion of Ukraine has contributed to severe food insecurity in 45 nations. This food insecurity has only been exacerbated by the impact of the COVID pandemic on the global economy, as well as climate change. And just last week, I saw this firsthand while leading a mission to Senegal. I got to see the enormous food and nutrition challenges facing the country, but also the UN programs designed to alleviate suffering and bring about long-term solutions. The food and nutrition challenges in Senegal are clear. There are 66 out of 116 countries on the Global Hunger Index. 38% of the population lives in extreme poverty. But the statistic that really I'm most focused on is 18% of Senegalese young adults experience stunting. And for those that don't track this condition, kids who are stunted never reach their full height or development potential because of inadequate nutrition in their formative growth years. So 18% of a country experiencing stunting is quite significant and disturbing. Why is this happening? Well, Senegal doesn't grow enough food, and agricultural production in the northern semi-arid part of the country where we visited, it's only growing harder because of climate change. We drove by sort of field after field with no crops growing because there was climate change made it too difficult. And so much of the grains that people eat are imported, and that leads to high food prices. And while the government is democratic and stable in Senegal, it doesn't have the resources to invest in resilient food systems that can withstand climate change and shocks to the system like the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We visited a rural village 45 minutes off the main road where families often had insufficient food and major nutrition challenges. We met with moms and their infants at a hospital in Dakar, the hospital's expertise was dealing with kids suffering from severe acute malnutrition. We hung out with kids and teachers in both urban, suburban, and rural schools where the kids had a hard time focusing because they hadn't eaten a meal in a while. Fortunately, the United Nations, with your support as American taxpayers, is there to help. In the rural village, the UN Children's Fund worked with village leaders to ensure that all children were tracked and treated for malnutrition in their first 2 years of life. They provided goats to ensure milk for the kids, helped the moms understand the importance of continued breastfeeding, and worked with the villagers to grow locally appropriate crops that would thrive and feed families. In the hospital in Dakar, the UN provided a miracle product called Plumpy Nut to kids on the brink of death. Plumpy Nut, made in the US, is a peanut-based paste with micronutrients that, when given to kids suffering from severe acute malnutrition, can literally save their lives. In the schools, the UN's World Food Program provided food and equipment and training to ensure that kids got breakfast and lunch. School attendance and performance has skyrocketed, which particularly impacts girls because they are the first to be held back from school during a crisis. And in the North, the UN has worked with a local rice producer to enrich Senegalese grown rice with iron. And once it's rolled out in the schools, the incidence of anemia is expected to go down. So we see enormous problems in Senegal and challenges for sure, but we also see solutions. And we see a concerted focus by the Senegalese government, the United Nations, and the US on implementation of all of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And as Angela Kim and Mayor Garcetti made clear, the Sustainable Development Goals apply to all countries, including the US. So as you were listening to me talk about Senegal, you probably recognizes similar challenges in Los Angeles. Kids getting insufficient food and nutrition, impacting your performance in school, and historically marginalized families facing a greater impact than everybody else. So today, what's exciting is you'll celebrate individuals in your community who are making a difference on full implementation of the SDGs in Los Angeles, including your mayor. And as we celebrate UN Day, this is an important reminder of how interconnected we are. Some families in Senegal are struggling with severe acute malnutrition, food shortages, and extreme poverty. Some people in Los Angeles are dealing with hunger and poverty each and every day. The UN's SDGs applies to all of us. And as we implement solutions, whether it's the UN in Senegal or community leaders and officials in Los Angeles, we are all working together towards a common global cause. And frankly, in this time of great political divisions here at home, enormous global tensions, that's room for hope. So again, thank you very much for having me here today. And if you have a few questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, Peter, for that amazing story and your anecdotes from your time in Senegal. You shared some really astounding statistics regarding the stunting of growth and a couple of examples of how they're addressing that. But we'd like to know, were there any surprising takeaways or maybe other ideas of that are being implemented on the ground in Senegal that you think should be considered for a global framework on tackling food insecurity and the global food crisis?
I think the most important thing that we need to be talking about is resilient food systems. And this is something where the UN's Food and Agricultural Organization can play a very important role in making sure that we work to develop agricultural production that's locally appropriate and can withstand shocks. And we know the shocks will continue to come because of continued climate change. And so to the extent that the UN can work in Senegal and other countries to ensure that we don't have to keep coming in with humanitarian aid, because when the UN and the US come in with humanitarian aid, it's too late, right? I mean, people are already suffering. So to the extent that we can sort of front load assistance and expertise and knowledge on the right grains and on the right crops for the community, and as well as the right ways to save water and energy, which are essential to agricultural production, we could really have an impact. So I would say focusing on resilience was definitely in the mind of those I saw in Senegal, and I think it's very much on the mind of the UN.
Perfect. No, that is a great answer on tackling those food systems and how resilience is key. Another question that sparks is that a large percentage of our membership base at UNA Los Angeles are young members, they're youth, that are very excited and eager to be leaders in their communities, but maybe aren't in that position of power or influence yet. What advice would you give to our youth for getting involved and making an impact on advancing the SDGs, whether it's on a local scale, on a global scale? How can we really get started?
I would question one element, which is I believe that young people are already in the seat of influence. Maybe not in this position of power, being mayor, deputy mayor, or a member of Congress. But when members of Congress want to meet with people my age, they sort of roll their eyes and they're like, okay, if I have to do it. When they get requests to meet with high schoolers or elementary school kids or college kids, they always take the meeting. Why? Because young people are full of hope and optimism and dynamism. They have new ideas. They want to listen. They want to learn. They also want to offer their views. And, people, who are middle-aged are more set in their ways. And so I think the most important thing that young people can do is ask for a meeting. Ask for a meeting with the mayor or with your member of Congress or your senator. Come as a group, plan it out in advance as to what issues you want to tackle. But I'm telling you, they already want to meet with you. They already want to meet with young people. So you're pushing on an open door.
Perfect. No, thank you so much for that. I love that answer, that it's really in our hands to take the initiative and request a meeting and put yourself out there and see what comes of that. And that reminds me of even just a few weeks ago, I had the honor to be at UNGA and even speak at the Transforming Education Summit in New York prior to UNGA. What are the most impactful takeaways, ideas, or even policies that you believe to come out of this year's UNGA?
I think that the focus of UNGA was how far behind we are in terms of implementation of the SDGs. And some of it, we were already behind before the pandemic, and we're now more behind than we were before, because the pandemic set back progress on everything from routine immunization of children, which is important for polio and measles, to lifting people out of poverty. And so I think that was the biggest thematic coming out of this year's UNGA. But I think in terms of policies, a lot of it is focused on sort of what can the global north do to sort of find resources to support these innovative and interesting programs that are done in partnership with the global south to implement the SDGs. And that's a huge issue right now because the Europeans are they're hosting all the Ukrainians in their country, and that's coming at an enormous cost. And so the Europeans in particular are very reluctant to make new foreign aid commitments. So I think watch that space as to what we can do to maintain and increase our foreign aid commitments.
Definitely a space to continue watching and monitoring. Thank you so much, Peter, for your time. It really has been so insightful and incredible to hear about your experiences and all the work that you've done. I wish we had more time for questions, but I believe it's time to switch over maybe to Catherine to introduce us to our next segment.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And to reiterate, thank you, Peter. I think it's a great reminder that sometimes, these issues might seem very far away, like places like Senegal, but, we can have an impact right here in our home in Los Angeles. And honestly, that's the way we can make the biggest change, is making it with our neighbors. So I am very excited to announce our final segment, which is led by Gabriela Soto, a UNA LA board member who will be speaking with our local heroes. And we call them heroes, but they might disagree and humbly prefer just to be called ordinary people, sign of a true hero. But the truth is that we can all nourish peace and advance SDGs. And this is the time to tell us how you nourish peace and advance the SDGs in the comments section. And we want to hear from you, because in my talk and, a common theme that we'd heard throughout, everyone can be a hero and a champion of courage. So because this is what the segment is all about, and it's to show that each of us has an individual flame that can ignite a fire and a transformation. But together we can all light up the night sky.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Thank you so much, all of you, to be here today, celebrating and how we cultivate and nourishing peace every day. I am so glad we have 8 different speakers that we call it local heroes. And like Catherine said, they might just be common people, but with such a commitment for their career and to save the planet. And they are activists in different areas. They are all in action, all of them in action every day in advancing the Sustainable Development Goals. So the first speaker I'm going to be very honored to introduce is Dr. Nicholas Dungey. Dr. Nicholas is a professor of a political and philosophy and political science at California State, Northridge. And he's also a visiting professor of humanities at Anglo-American University in Prague. This one is very amazing. When I was reading your bio, Dr. Dungey, he's the founder of Revolution, the world's first love-driven, hate-free social good platform designed exclusively to all forms of global activism and nonprofits. There is more, a lot more in your bio. And without going further inside that, what I would love to do is to begin the conversation. You are the first one. Sure. The conversation that we are going to begin is exactly how we, in this case, you, cultivate peace from your work.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, Gabriela. Good morning to all of you. It's just an absolutely extraordinary morning. It is enlightening and empowering for me to listen to all of this, and I'm honored to be part of it. I want to thank Carissa, one of my students at CSU Northridge, and the United Nations Association Los Angeles for inviting me to this amazing event. Before I begin, however, I want to bear witness to the tens of millions of people in Iran and Ukraine who are fighting so hard right now to nourish and live in peace. I also want to bear witness to the generations of the colonized, people of color, and women who have worked so tirelessly to nourish and live in peace. And I want to recognize that, and I want to bear witness to it. Now, as Gabriela said, I'm a professor of political philosophy, and I'm the founder of Revolution. And I want to share how these two things are linked together and how they are pressed into the service of nourishing peace. As you may know, philosophy is the love for wisdom, and political philosophy is the love for 2 types of wisdom. First, political philosophy is the love for wisdom of the self, what we would now call self-care. And by the love for wisdom of the self, we mean the ongoing, unending pursuit of knowledge or wisdom or enlightenment that enables us to elevate our consciousness be the best possible people we can be, and to live well. And by love for the wisdom of justice, political philosophy means our inescapable moral responsibility to use our talents and our geniuses and our resources to help others, sustain the environment, and to create more just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive communities. So I have been spending the last 30 years of my life in Los Angeles and Prague. I keep my home in Prague, teaching political philosophy. Now, the culminating experience of 30 years of mentoring and educating and building souls who are activists for both the love of self and the love of justice has led me to create, and we have recently launched, the world's first social good / social media app built exclusively for activists and nonprofits from around the world. Revolution is a love-driven, hate-free platform that is designed to do three things at a local level and a global level. We want to create a space where we bring activists from around the world directly into contact with nonprofits from around the world. We want to create a unified space where activists and nonprofits from the entire ecosystem of activist issue areas can gather in a love-driven, non-toxic, hate-free speech.
I love that.
It exists not just to connect everybody, but to begin the process of sharing information and collaborating in real time. And third, it exists to empower individuals on the street level, at the university, at the community level, and around the world to empower and drive change. And
thank you so much, Dr. Dungey. What I am, even though we want, not just me, I think all of us are listening, like so in everything that you're sharing. We have, I forgot to mention this at the beginning, we are going to make a big effort. It's difficult because all of you and all the speakers coming are such amazing humans, like the contribution and the impact that you are causing from your places. Amazing.
Thank you.
Each of us has 2 minutes. I can extend it to 3. And I am going to just leave you like 5 more seconds. For you, can you share, do you have material to share in the chat maybe?
Sure. So look, I'm so grateful for the time, and I'm in awe of the extraordinary work and the presence that everybody is bringing to this moment. And again, I don't want to talk too much about these things, but the app is live. It is, I need to type here.
If you can, yes. Otherwise, we can ask them.
That is how that is the relove, and the LED in the revolution is, we are love driven, we are hate speech free, and we are a social media platform for activists. And you can download it at the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. And you can search my name and send me an invite to Ally. There's over 1,000 people on it right now. It's global, and we're going to do our part to arc the direction of justice and well-being.
Thank you. Thank you. I love one of the things that it stays with me, at least in this segment where you speak, is the self-love and the moral responsibility and accountability that we have with our society. So thank you so much, Dr. Dungey.
Thank you, everyone. Be well.
The next person that I'm going to introduce, thank you, is Jillian Boardman. She's the president of the United Nations Association. Is a dear person. We work together already for 3 years in a row, hand to hand, in making a difference and expanding this chapter. Jillian is an amazing human being. Since she was in the university, was committed to make a difference in the world. She worked in different projects she has a master in international relations, and she has been working with cultures to develop solutions to global issues. She has a trajectory to working with human rights. One of the things, even though I know you already for a while, Jillian, but I was kind of like moved when I read that you created a human trafficking prevention initiative with New Hope Cambodia, and restated a woman reproductive health program in collaboration with Mary Stopes International Clinic. And those are just few of the remarkable projects or initiatives you were involved. So my question to you is how you are nourishing peace these days from your positions in community.
Thanks, Gabriella. You know, when we first started creating this program, we asked ourselves this question: how we nourish peace, what nourishing peace means to us. And I feel really honored to be among all these amazing people who are doing amazing things to nourish peace. And I don't quite feel like a local hero. I'll take it. But
I know. I invite her personally without even sharing to the board. And she was like, no, and I said yes.
But yeah, and I think it's been mentioned before, I think I'm just somebody that cares, but I'm also in a very fortunate position where I have the ability to do something about it. And not everybody has the ability to do that. And then, like we've been talking before, and like it was just mentioned, you know, look at what's happening in Ukraine and Iran and Senegal, and you know, or maybe it's just an internal struggle that you're having with yourself. And sometimes just making it through the day is nourishing peace. And that's okay. And that's heroic in itself. So I just wanted to acknowledge that first before I go into anything that I'm personally doing. We also wanted to try and like bring this from a global level or from a local individual level to a global level. So I'm kind of going to do that, but maybe a bit in reverse. So during my days, I work for an extraordinary woman. She's an international ethical and sustainable jewelry designer. It gives us the opportunity to work with different communities around the world to create jewelry and provide economic security and preserve cultural arts for these artisans. So we work miraculously, we're still working in Kabul, Afghanistan. We're working with the last remaining traditional goldsmiths in Myanmar. We have amazing projects going on, Syrian refugees in Jordan, and a couple other projects that I can't talk about yet, but I'm really excited to share, hopefully in the near future, that are in the works right now. So that's like on a global level. And on a local level, I just wanted to touch on this very quick. On a local level, I nourish peace by voting. Voting is really important. And it's deeply personal to me. And I think all of us as women have experienced why it's so important to vote. And so, you know, we all have an ability to nourish peace through voting on November 8th. You know, it's a good thing to do to help preserve our very precious democracy. And then on an individual level, after work, I get to be the president of the Los Angeles chapter. And that's just been an extraordinary experience for me, especially to work alongside you and the rest of the LA chapter board. So many that have contributed to our event today. Radhika is incredible, Jenny, Dean, everybody, I'm not gonna be able to say everybody's name, but working alongside you all to create really memorable experiences for our members in our community has just been an extremely rewarding experience. And it's also challenged me to figure out what kind of leader I want to be. And in that, just kind of recognizing the importance of leading with compassion and sincerity and authenticity, and finding that in other leaders as well that I want to support. So
So
Thank you.
that's
And one of the things that, one of the reasons, I'm sorry I interrupt you, one of the reasons, it's already like past the 2 minutes. So it's kind of like I kind of managing time, even though what I want you to share is, and one of the reasons I invite you is because I admire you. You are the president of the chapter. You are keeping out the conversation of the advancement of the Sustainable Development Goals every day. And I know it has been 3 years in the presidency of the chapter, and soon we are going to have elections. And I wanted you to extend an invitation to all our participants today, because it's important, like you said, voting is part of engaging with commitment and with your heart, and also participating is part of it. So I think it was shared in the chat. Please share with us the email.
Yeah. So anyone that's interested that would like to become a member of the LA chapter board and take on an officer position role, that means president, vice president, VP of fundraising, VP of communications, all the roles. Just
take our roles, please.
We're just excited to have new ideas, new energy, taking everything to the next level, maybe doing things a bit differently, and just switching it up. So please email info@unalosangeles.org to learn more about how to get involved.
Thank you so much, Jillian. Thank you for being the president of our chapter, and thank you for the difference you make in women. I know it's beautiful when you see women in the globe around the world, like they can feel honored and they are dignified when they, with their own work, they can feed their families and take care of what matters to them. So thank you. You are doing that every day.
Oh, thank you, Gabriela. So are you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So the next person that I want to introduce you is Renee Lawter. She is a dear friend. And I invite her because she, from her work and her career, has been a stand and a commitment to really take care of the planet and take care of everything. If you know Renee, Renee will save a possum from the street. And lately, she is involved in an amazing project that I would love her to share.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, it's good to see so familiar faces here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. The project that I'm currently working on is in the background. I kind of put that up for you guys so you'd be able to see a little bit of it. And it's called Karma's Creatures. And, when Gabby asked me to do this, I was like, how am I nurturing peace? And then as a reflection, she mirrors me back and says, you're this, you're this, you're this. And part of it is, the projects that I want to work on are around the creatures in our environment. And I think that the way, for me, that I nourish peace is by creating worlds that reflect that. Like I have a main character named Cassie, and she can see creatures in the environment that nobody else can. And I think part of it is to have people, to have people go through their imagination to see the things that they're most passionate about and most connected to, and be able to really make change from there. And I think for me, it's through fantasy. And I want to touch the hearts of little kids and have them really start to dream and imagine from a very young age. And my company is called Iris, and we do a lot of kids entertainment. But my side gig is creating our own properties for our, for the company and for myself, that we can really put that messaging in from the ground up. And so this one, there's different characters and creatures that I'll pop up.
I love that one.
Simon.
Mm-hmm.
so there's a whole world of this. I'm sacrificing the hair for this. No, I'm kidding. But it's this is Simon behind me. And then, you know, it's like just really, this is Cassie's Creatures, but, you know, it's like really finding a way to develop projects in the world that are creative and start with a message about the environment. And this really is about connecting human beings to the other creatures that are on the planet that we want to have peace with and we want to live synchronicity with. And so that's my message.
Thank you. So it's very amazing to know Renee. Most of the people that are in the segment, I am related very closely. Renee personally is my sister, with different hair. And one of the things that I admire of you is your mind, your artistic and creative mind. And I love that you are creating Cassie's Creatures. And I also know that in the everyday life, you honor the planet. Can you share with us a little bit about that too?
Well, you know, regarding the planet, it's like, I really do, like Gabby said, like if I find baby squirrels, you know, or if I find a possum, it's like, I don't just pass over it. I have a little squirrel right now that I hand feed that visits me on my 3rd floor balcony. And she's got a little broken paw, but it's like really taking care of all the creatures that are around us, because I think people really don't, you know, we're busy lives, busy city, busy projects, busy things we're doing, but they're the small things, even down to the little tiny bugs that are on this planet matter. And so for me, it's really the interconnectedness that we all have with everything on this planet, not just each other, but it's all the beings on the planet is where my heart is.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, because you are in a connection of that in every day and in your art. And Renee is an amazing entrepreneur, and her company does work with Universal Studios, with Warner. Like she does the posters for the movies, for the most famous movies that we all see in the cinema. They do property, that they call it in the design world.
Yeah,
intellectual property.
Yeah, we've been working on, you know, through Iris, we've been helping other companies with also focus on what their sustainable messages are. And so, you know, we're working on some things with Jurassic World, and we've got Trolls 3, and we're working on Minions. And so some of the biggest franchises and properties out there. But what we're trying to do is actually direct them towards what is the message that they're putting out there. Because from a high level, you're looking at movies that gross billions of dollars that are putting waste in the environment. And what we're really about is shaping those inputs. So we are creating our own properties and sending those messages out there and doing better than everyone else. That's where my company takes a stand. We just got to do better than everybody else is doing. So
thank you so much, Renee. Our time is up, but please share in the chat. Okay, thank you, Renee. My next guest is Genevieve Riutort. I don't know if I am doing your last name, even though how I pronounce it. Genevieve, thank you so much for being part of our segment, Local Heroes. You're literally a local hero. But, Genevieve is the president of the West Side Food Bank. And I let you share what you do. Like we know what food means to every human being and being in the planet.
Thank you so much. And it's really my pleasure and my honor to be among such a distinguished group of people who are really working to make a difference, you know, both locally here in our community and globally. So I really am so inspired by all of the speakers today and excited to learn about the great work that so many people are doing and how we can get better connected. So I am the president and CEO at Westside Food Bank, and Westside Food Bank is the food bank warehouse for pretty much all of the social service agencies with food assistance programs in West Los Angeles County. So we're the warehouse hub that provides food to over 65 programs, most of which are pantry programs that provide free groceries to families that need help with that are facing food insecurity. And then also a small portion of our food goes to shelter programs, school meals, after school programs, senior programs, veteran programs, et cetera. And I come to this work with some personal experience. I myself have experienced food and housing insecurity. In fact, it was getting a job at Westside Food Bank that made me able to be stable enough to support my children and my family and become food and housing secure. So I know what it's like to be on the other side. And I truly believe that in order for us to nourish peace together as a community, it takes a bold vision. It takes courage. We have to not be afraid to look at the kind of big, scary problems. There was a report that just came out from the National Low Income Housing Coalition, and Los Angeles is rated the second city with the highest deficit of affordable housing. We are short over 600,000 affordable housing units. And my hometown of New York City was number one, with they're short 800,000 affordable housing units. And so, it's a big problem, and housing insecurity leads to food insecurity. We feel like our work at Westside Food Bank helps to keep people housed because we can provide the nourishing groceries, fresh produce, fruits and vegetables, high protein food, so that low income families, and honestly, in these days, post-COVID, even middle income families are struggling. And so if we can keep providing that nourishing food week after week, then those families can use their resources to stay housed. And, I think we have to innovate. I'm so excited to hear about so many young people who are interested in making a difference, because we need to be open to those new voices and recognize that, the way we've been doing things hasn't worked. Westside Food Bank is a 40-year-old organization, and that's wonderful. We have some strength, we have some stability, we can really serve the community. But the goal initially 40 years ago was to eliminate hunger in Los Angeles, and we're not there. And so it's going to take innovation. It's going to take collaboration. All of us that work on these challenging issues, whether it's housing insecurity and homelessness, whether it's, healthcare access, the school to prison pipeline, all of these issues are interconnected. And we need to collaborate and work together, because all ships rise together. And only when all of us succeed are any of us going to succeed. And so I'm really about innovating, finding data-driven solutions that can really produce more equity, and then collaborating and recognizing that we're in this together. And it's by working together and caring for one another that we're going to solve some of these really challenging problems that all of the the sustainable goals are trying to get us towards. And I'm very excited to be part of such an exciting group working towards that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Genevieve. I am really moved. I am a single mom, so I know sometimes what it is to pass necessities or have moments of stress. And I really thank you for everything you do. The first level of human dignity is having food. Without food, we cannot think. Without food, we cannot operate. Without food, we cannot think in designing something else. Like, it's the first level of survival, and you are in that line.
Thank you. Yeah, there's no peace when there's hunger. You cannot be at peace if you're hungry.
Yeah, and I am reading some of the chats, like Dr. Nicholas Dungey just shared, like the food insecurity among CSUN, the university in Norwich, is a crisis. So, and he's saying, thank you, Genevieve. So thank you so much. And I invite you to share whatever project you are involved, or fundraising or the link to your organization in the chat, so people can get in communication with you and collaborate in all the ways that they can. Thank you so much, Genevieve.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're hoping to buy a building so that we can have a forever home for the food bank and continue this great work. Thank you.
The service, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. So our next guest is an architect that has devoted her life. I need to read that from the bio because it's like in English that is difficult for me to say, but what I know about Carissa Carissa right now is working with Gaughen. Is a leading architecture and design firm founded 80 years ago. So it has some history in building cities. And Carissa main focus is on planning and designing of projects that transform the experience of community, the housing of communities. She works in government projects, in civic projects across the nation and the globe. And one of the things, Carissa, that I didn't even know, that what you really create solutions, these creative design architectural solutions of justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I love that concept, to be inclusive in architecture, actually, in the design of cities. But thank you for being here. And I want you to share in how many ways, or at least 2 ways, or one, that you are nurturing peace today in your life.
Sure. Thanks, Gabby, and everyone for welcoming me here today. To me, as an architect, nourishing peace is, as you've kind of alluded to in my bio, it's really all about equity in the built environment. And what I mean by that is my role as an architect is to design and plan spaces where everybody can thrive and everybody has an equal voice. And so that means that everyone has a roof over their head and a place where they can take a clean shower, a warm shower. It's meaning that all students or people who want to be students have access to learning spaces where they can thrive, have access to the technology and the equipment they need to learn and to succeed. And I could keep going, that people who are mobility challenged are able to have a place to live, are able to go to the grocery store and do these things that they need to do and enjoy their communities. And so every single project I approach, I really try to take on the voice of those who don't have voices, those underprivileged, underserved communities, and the people who can't speak for themselves. So I approach that, and I think any project that I have at any scale, there's that opportunity. But today I wanted to share a little bit about this new endeavor I'm embarking on. So in addition to being an architect at Gaughen, I'm also a board member of Plant Fruit. And Plant Fruit is a nonprofit organization started by a couple of my dear friends in Thousand Oaks. And the sole mission of Plant Fruit is to serve and support this group of 200 Batwa people in Uganda. And this is a community of people who the Uganda government many years ago removed them from their land. And so they are squatting. They don't have housing, they don't have shelter, they don't have, they really are not able to do what they need to do and thrive and are barely surviving. And so this organization, Plant Fruit, is focused on providing them everything, teaching them to farm, teaching them to sow so that they can be self-sustaining. We recently purchased land, and now my effort as an architect is really focusing on building them housing, building them a roof over their head, a solid place where they can have, sheltered from the environment, providing them a well with clean water, potable water that they can drink from. And so we're kind of at the beginning of this mission. It's a relatively newish nonprofit, but we've been doing so many fantastic things and are really looking for additional support, funding. I can put some information in the chat, but there's a silent auction happening now through November 9th, as well as a fundraiser the evening of November 9th in Thousand Oaks. I would welcome anybody to participate in these, and I can leave my contact information if there's other ways you want to donate time or whatnot. But I forget who was saying it earlier, but even though we are, in Los Angeles as a group, we can make an impact all over the globe, and there's so much need all over, as we know. So trying to tackle these SDG goals one at a time or a couple at a time, I think it's important. This group is fantastic here doing what you all are doing. And I think we're stronger together. So the more we can kind of come together, share what we're doing and support each other, it can only make all of our efforts that much stronger.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Carissa, for everything you do, from your architecture mindset, because most of the time we don't know where is behind the design of a house or an institution or a school or a hospital or even just a commercial plaza. And I know mindsets like you are taking care of human beings. You are taking care of the experience we have. And you are taking
Thank you.
We are all in, like you, we all belong. And we are, yeah.
Everybody deserves to have great spaces and spaces that they can thrive and grow and succeed in.
And thank you for being part of Plant Fruit. So I share the web of Plant Fruit right there in the chat, but you can feel free and up in the chat any information that you want to share with us.
Sounds great, we'll do.
So, thank you. So the next person I am going to introduce is another dear, special friend, a sister, Jerry Simpson. Jer, hi.
Hey, hi, Gabby.
So Sherry, I am going to just share a line about you. Sherry is you're an activist for life. You are just an stand for and my partner to create a world where all belong. But Sherry is an Emmy award. She many years ago did a documentary that gained this award with Nelson Mandela. And I have the privilege to know you closely. And thank you so much for saying yes to our invitation to be part of this event. And I want to ask you, like, what are you doing now these days to nurture?
Well, first, Gabby, it is just so wonderful to be here with you and everyone else in this beautiful celebration. This is a community of people who I know literally, if we put our heads together, like many of these things could be solved, given the resources. And I just want to thank you for inviting me here and to be part of this incredible group. So I've just been mesmerized by everyone else's work in the world. So I'll tune back into to mine. What I'm doing, first of all, I'm joining you from the San Francisco Bay Area, otherwise known as Ohlone Indigenous lands originally. Here in San Francisco is also the birthplace of the United Nations. And so it's really an honor to be doing work from this perch. So what I'm doing, I head an area of public media. I currently work in producing and presenting content for PBS. As Gabby said, I'm a longstanding producer of documentary films, and I've always been sort of personally torn between this world of just digging in and making the difference in the world and creating impact, and then also making film. And I'm so happy that I finally am actually able to do both, wearing one hat, not 12. But I do want to first shout out the United Nations Association, because it's this organization that I really did get to dig in and work alongside of amazing leaders like yourselves to make local and global impact. And the SDGs have given us, I think, all a way to do that. So, so the work I'm doing now is really reimagining how public media engages with people throughout this country. And so I have the privilege to work with several nonfiction series. One in particular I'm going to talk about today called Independent Lens. And for anyone and all of us, the good news about public media is that it reaches all of us and it's free. And as much as I know that we all probably watch Netflix and Hulu and every other subscription service, public media is still part of grounding our democracy and was formed to really empower people and to include actually the voices of all people. So Independent Lens is one series for PBS that I'm working closely with that's really dedicated to bringing forth ascendant generation of storytellers, but also through documentary, really using the power of storytelling to create impact. And I want to share one specific example of one of the projects I'm currently working on. Within Independent Lens, we have an initiative called Stories for Justice. And Stories for Justice is a multi-year initiative that really is focused on this idea that storytelling can help to shift hearts and minds around the criminal justice system. And so the tie-in here for me with the SDGs, and there always is one with the power of stories, this particular initiative really focuses on SDG 10, which is about really doing away altogether with injustice and really equaling the scales for everyone. And that means across education and so many of the SDGs, but really this idea that still in this world, 2 out of 10 people report being discriminated against. And so with these inequities in so many areas, we're seeking to shift the criminal justice system, which is in so many ways, just the outcome of years and years of inequality. And we could, talk more about the roots and how we got there, but really looking at a criminal justice system that disproportionately incarcerates some individuals. It's not only the system, but it's like, really, who are these people who have been imprisoned, and are they still members of society? Yes, absolutely. And so it's really with Stories for Justice, I've been working with a groundswell of content. I'm currently producing and distributing a series called Bridge Builders, which really is a series of 5 short films about people like all of you who are just bridging understanding about who people are in this world, who are going through challenges as a result of being in the criminal justice system, but who actually are making extraordinary impacts in shifting the system, but in also caring for their communities and really changing the way that we interact with folks who are formerly incarcerated. So I guess I'll just kind of pull back and say that for me, peace really looks like everyone having, including formerly incarcerated or wherever we sit, people being able to be peaceful, to be full of peace, to be able to have the dignity of really knowing that they're equal, living in a system that really honors all of us for who we are, and a system and a culture of care for every member of our society. So we feel like the power of storytelling and public media is still an anchor in democracy, but even more so in holding true to the idea that everyone's story is powerful and worthy of being told. And actually building more young audiences who actually appreciate the power of PBS. I was a Sesame Street kid. I don't know how many of you were plopped in front of the TV and probably can still sing some of those jingles. And it was actually probably, my nickname, by the way, is Ernie. Some of you know that. And that is actually straight out of Sesame Street. So there's something about what we learn when we're kids that really is influencing us still. So I just want to say thank you to all of you for the time to talk about this initiative. I do want to close with one other quick thought, which stuck in my mind from my UN days, and that is that if you can measure it, you can change it. So another key world that I'm working in right now is to actually measure the impact, the social impact of films and television. We think of Nielsen and organizations like that when we think about measuring. But there is a way now to measure through an instrument called doc scale, the social impact of our programming while we're experiencing it. So if anyone's interested in hearing more about that, and one other project I've just completed is the first ever framework for ethical and accountable filmmaking. 7 colleagues and I worked with over 100 independent filmmakers and the actual real local heroes, people who participate in documentaries and allow us to film their stories, who have said, it's time for, much like journalism, there to be an ethical framework for how we make documentaries. Now that we can all pick up an iPhone and make a film, these are some guidelines that can help us honor the people who are in our films. So docaccountability.org, the tool for measuring impact is called Doc Scale. And I just invite you all to return to public media if it's been a while. And for those of you who do support your local PBS station, thank you. We need it more than ever. Thank you.
Mary Simpson, you're amazing, always. I am like in all your projects you are involved, and always they are focused in creating healing in society, that everyone is listened and heard. Everything you do is about that, and making a difference and progressing. So thank you so much. Please share everything you are doing in the chat. Okay, thank you. Our next guest is an amazing artist that is joining us and from Paris, Ricky Amadour. Ricky has been collaborating with us forever. You have been showcasing your art with us. We even were part of the gallery that you make in February. And Amadour is an amazing artist. Your bio is so long, and you had been collaborating in so many galleries around the world and in our nation. And you are, I knew your paints, but then in reading your bio, you also are very well known in fashion, in the fashion industry. And I can tell you're always looking amazing and stunning. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that you are joining us. And I will let you share how do you nourish peace in your everyday?
Hi, everybody. So thank you so much for having me, and hello from Paris right now. It's really nice here. It's been really lovely weather for October. But I really want to focus on Los Angeles, given this is the UNA LA. And my last project with UNA was doing a walkthrough of my solo exhibition in LA that really explored various trees of the American West Coast that are endangered. And in my last exhibition, also in LA, I was exploring the various endangered flowers, including the Dungey found in the Presidio in San Francisco, the Team's buckwheat close to Las Vegas in Nevada, and also a species of milkweed in the LA region called excuse me, it's on the top of my the bronze, it's a milkweed. Anyways, it's a milkweed, bear with me.
No worries, like we will not remember the names you just mentioned. I am just thinking they are, what I love about you, kind of like what Renee, the past speaker, like the speaker before, she does through cartoons and drawings and art, and you do it through art too. It's like the beautiful connection that you have soul with nature is amazing. Like literally you design and you're inspired, like you dedicate an entire like art production to connect with that tree, with that flower, and you put it out there in the world. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I think what my focus is and how I bring peace, if I do bring peace, I think that I emphasize my work into the interconnection that between humans and the environment, especially with such diverse ecosystems in which we live in California. I think that you know, it may seem like it's easy because we have so much access to nature, but we have so many diverse places. You know, we have redwoods, we have mountains, we have desert. And so to really consolidate one idea into how to support nature, it needs to be much more extensive and dynamic. But I think that also starts in the local sphere by even just paying attention, you know, paying attention to what wildflower is growing in your backyard, what tree is growing in your backyard. Because plants, the milkweed, LADWP actually destroyed a ton of them in the mountains. And it was an amateur wildlife watcher that was like, hey, I think that these milkweed are being destroyed. What's going on? And LA Times covered it, which led me as an artist to focus on this milkweed and share its story so that other people could be aware of it. And so I think it's just sharing dialogue and not being afraid to be like, curious about what's going on in the natural environment around you. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Where can you share your website? Like I want people to be able to access your amazing work as much as they can. And when you are back to the US, you should call us so we can go and visit you and you do your next galleries. But thank you so much, Amadour, for being here, all these events, because what time is in Paris right now? It's 9 hours long.
It's like 8 o'clock or something. I don't know.
You're going to go party after this. So thank you so much. And as I said before, for the level of awareness and consciousness and love and care, kindness and compassion that you bring with nature. You make us present in this conversation. Like I was not present at all to many flowers. Sometimes I appreciate trees when I take walks and I enjoy my neighbor and stuff, but you really create a deeper level of awareness. And I think from the education from to all of us and kids, we can make a difference. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So our last guest and a speaker, her name is Barbara
Gaughen-Muller.
Gaughen-Muller. Thank you so much, Barbara.
You're welcome.
So I am so honored to have you. You are, let me just read it from here, because you are the president of the United Nations Association, Southern California, and you are also a VP of the UNA in Santa Barbara, and you're also a chair in the Rotary Action Group Peace. So you are a very, very active, engaged, and a participant in social causes and in the advancement of the Sustainable Development Goals. So my question to you is how you nourish peace every day.
Nourishing peace is like a gift from God, that we are alive today. And I feel like everything we do can nourish peace. My late husband was the Assistant Secretary General. We traveled the world, and one thing everybody wanted was peace. You could just feel it, that if they had peace, their plants would grow. I do a magazine called the Community Peace Magazine. And in here, I just loved your last speaker, because we talk about the plants, the fruit, the gentleness of the earth, and how we are part of everything. Well, I think how I get everything done is I do it with enthusiasm. If I'm going to do something, I say yes with enthusiasm. If I'm going to say no, I say no with enthusiasm, but I bless the people who have asked me, and I wish them the best. There's one thing that I have learned as I have many grandchildren, that they all have wisdom. And now I am doing peacepodcast.org to interview the wisdom keepers who may not be with us next year. And their wisdom will be captured on peacepodcast.org. And I love the voices today of the youth. I call you all young people. One of my dear friends from my United Nations Association said, anybody who's alive is young. So all of us are young. So let us just all be young and happy. My grandchildren, I don't have all my jewels on today, but my grandchildren always say, Grandma, put on your jewels and come visit. Why? I like to decorate myself, and I'm wearing this pin today, which says United Nations Association. I have all these pins. This one says choose hope. Today I got from you the hope that our world needs. Every one of you could be where Gabby is today. You are awesome, every one of you. I just said, I got to put half of these people, maybe all of them, on a peace podcast, because you're the youth of today that will inspire the future, and to bring food to the world, to make sure people are fed. You know, all I say is do what you can wherever you are. And I'll give you one little story. I'm sitting I just finished filling up my gas tank. It will cost a few $100s, but I got it full. And I went in to pay. And there was this homeless man there. And he said, here's my quarter. I want breakfast. And I said, put your quarter away. Put your breakfast on my credit card. The whole place changed. Peace became the symbol of love and sharing. Do what you can wherever you are, because that's the way the world survives. And I just love being on this show. And you know what I am? I'm the key ender. I always wanted to be a key ender. A key ender is somebody who tells you, don't go home and tell everybody how great this was. You tell everybody how great you were. Honor yourself for being here today. We are miracles and there's nobody else like us. Think of the things we can do with the destiny that we can involve ourselves with, because we are well fed, we're clothed, and part of the richest people on the planet. So let's do the best we can wherever we are.
Barbara, your energy is so beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, because I know you are involved in so many projects. You can call us anytime to collaborate with your podcast.
You know, I always say, just show up. You never know who's there, who's going to need your words, right, Gabby?
Yes,
and
exactly.
You know, I really want to say, Gabby, what do you have? A little boy, little girl, two of each? What children do you have that we can?
I have only one girl.
One girl. Well, we're going to add her to our list of people we love.
Oh, thank you. That is so sweet. I love that. I was just sharing yesterday pictures of her. That is actually Nourishing Peace. Like being a mom is I think is the biggest act of Nourishing Peace.
It is. It is.
And being a parent, you know, and dedicating yourself to a human being that depends on you. 100%.
I always told my children, I'm going to raise you the way I want to, because I want you to remind me of who I am when I'm older. And they are always reminding me of who I am. Yesterday, my son said, don't you remember, Mom, when you told me don't take things so seriously? I thought, what a
amazing
good advice. I told him that when he was 3 years old and he still remembers it. So what we say as moms is remembered, and what we do in the community is valued.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Barbara, for having us. Please share your information about your podcast in the chat. Thank you, everyone. I am so honored for all the guests. And I thank you for staying longer, much longer. I am present, even though it looks like I'm not. Catherine, I am giving you the microphone. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
No worries. I mean, that's what happens when you're inspired, is we can all sit here and time will pass and we won't even realize it. But thank you, Gabriella, and to all of our local heroes. I know we got to hear from quite a few of them, but I see that there are about 30 plus participants in here, and you guys are all heroes. So I'm excited to say that this concludes our UN Day event, and we hope that you have enjoyed your time celebrating and learning from one another and learning to be inspired, because that's what really the UN Day and UNA is all about. So to learn more about UNA Los Angeles, thank you to Brianna for putting it in the chat. You can go to unalosangeles.org or follow the Los Angeles chapter on Facebook and Instagram. And a big special thank you to all of our event speakers and guests and musical talent for taking time out of their incredibly busy day and Sunday for just taking the time to speak with us. And most importantly, thank you to all of the UNA members and friends for being a part of this day. We hope that you enjoyed it and carry on the spirit of Diwali with you, and keep in your hearts and minds that we are each here an individual flame, but collectively we can light up the night sky. So I hope you all have a wonderful Sunday. And as I like to say, have an open heart, have an open mind, and strive to be the sunshine in other people's life. Thank you, guys.